This happened 3 years ago, when I moved into my first house alone. It wasn't old, it wasn't some creepy Victorian place with history attached to it. It was just a normal, early 2000s suburban home in a quiet cul-de-sac, beige walls, white trim, nothing dramatic. The only thing that ever felt off was the hallway. The layout was simple: living room at the front, kitchen behind that, and a narrow hallway leading to the bedroom and the bathroom. There was a single ceiling light in the hallway, controlled by a switch near the kitchen. The first time it happened, I blamed myself. I woke up at around 3:17 a.m. I remember because I checked my phone. My bedroom door was slightly open and I could see the hallway light was on. I was sure I'd turned it off before bed. I lay there for a minute, annoyed at myself. I got up, walked into the hallway, and turned it off. Nothing strange. I went back to sleep. The next night, it happened again. Same time, 3:17 a.m. The hallway light was on. This time, I knew I'd turned it off. I even remember flipping the switch and thinking about how I didn't want the power bill creeping up. I walked out there again, turned it off, and went back to bed, but I locked my bedroom door, just in case. Over the next week, it became a pattern. Every second or third night, 3:17 a.m. Hallway light on. I checked the wiring. I replaced the bulb. I even replaced the switch. I had a friend who's an electrician come over and look at it. He couldn't find anything wrong. It's not faulty, he said. It's working exactly how it should. That's when I stopped telling people, because the next part sounds insane. One night, I woke up before the light came on. It was 3:15 a.m. I don't know why I woke up. I just did. My room was completely dark. The hallway light was off. I stared at the crack under my door, and I waited. At exactly 3:17, the hallway light flicked on. I didn't hear the switch move, but I heard something else. Footsteps. Slow. Bare. Padding softly down the hallway carpet. They stopped right outside my door. I couldn't see the shadows under the crack, but I could see the light shifting slightly, like something was blocking it just for a second. Then I heard it. A single soft knock. Not loud, not aggressive, just one. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. After about 10 seconds, the light switched off again. The footsteps walked away. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning I checked the hallway. Nothing was out of place. Doors locked, windows shut, no sign of forced entry. I installed a camera facing down the hallway that afternoon. I told myself it was for peace of mind. That night I stayed awake. 3:16 a.m. The hallway was dark on the camera feed, nothing there. 3:17. The light snapped on. But here's the part that still makes me feel sick. The camera didn't show anyone. No movement, no shadow, nothing near the switch, but the light turned on. And on the audio, you can clearly hear footsteps, slow, walking toward my bedroom door, then stopping. The camera shows an empty hallway, but the audio picks up 3 soft knocks this time, and the light switches off. The footsteps retreat. I watch the footage over and over. There's no glitch, no distortion, just an empty hallway with the sound of someone walking through it. I didn't sleep in that house again. I stayed with my sister for a week while I decided what to do. I went back one afternoon with my dad to collect some things. It was broad daylight, and the hallway light was on. The switch was flipped up. I never told anyone this part, but as I was unplugging my TV, I heard it again. A single knock from inside the hallway wall. Not on a door, inside the wall. 3 short taps. I sold the house 7 months later. Took a small loss just to get rid of it. The couple who bought it never contacted me. I didn't leave my number. But about a year ago, I ran into my old neighbor at the supermarket. She asked why I'd moved so suddenly. I shrugged it off and said, I just want to change. She hesitated and then said, the new owners didn't stay long either. I tried to act casual. Oh. She nodded. They complained about electrical issues, specifically the hallway light. It keeps turning on in the middle of the night. I didn't ask what time. I didn't need to. Because even now, in my new house, sometimes I wake up at 3:17 a.m. and for a split second, I swear I can see the light from under my bedroom door, even though my hallway light is off. And sometimes, before I fall asleep, I hear one soft knock. This happened 2 years ago when I was living alone in a one-bedroom apartment just outside of the city. It wasn't a creepy building, that's important. It was some abandoned hospital-looking place with broken lights and peeling paint. It was renovated, clean, neutral colors, no appliances, the kind of apartment that feels temporary but safe. I moved in after a breakup. It was supposed to be a reset. The first photo was taken accidentally. I had just bought a plant for the living room and wanted to send a picture to my sister. Nothing special, just me standing near the window holding a pot. When she replied, her message wasn't about the plant. She asked, "Who's that behind you?" I assumed she was joking. I zoomed in. Behind me, in the hallway mirror, mounted near the kitchen entrance, there was something darker than the surrounding shadows. It looked vaguely like a person standing in the doorway behind me. The hallway light had been off when I took the photo. The only light source was the window to my right. I told her it was probably a lighting glitch. Maybe the camera adjusted exposure weirdly. She sent the photo back, circled. The shape did look off. It clearly wasn't a person. It didn't have defined features, but it had height, shoulders, a kind of density to it. Still, I brushed it off. I live alone. There was no one there. I deleted the picture. I didn't think about it again for a few weeks, until it happened again. This time, I was taking a picture of my living room because I was rearranging furniture. I stood near the couch, snapped the photo, and immediately noticed something in the preview. The same mirror, the same hallway, and again, something darker than the rest of the space. Closer this time, not in the doorway, but just inside the hallway, like I had stepped forward. I remember my heart rate picking up in a way that felt disproportionate to what I was seeing, because it wasn't clear, it wasn't a face, it wasn't detailed, it was just wrong. I walked into the hallway immediately after taking the photo. Nothing there. Bedroom empty, bathroom empty, closet empty, front door locked, windows locked. I stood in the hallway trying to recreate the lighting. I turned the lights on and off, took more photos. Nothing showed up. That's what made it worse. It only appeared when I wasn't looking. I started avoiding that mirror, but not consciously at first. But I stopped taking pictures in the apartment, stopped standing in front of it. At night, if I passed it, I would glance quickly just to confirm nothing was there. It was always normal. A month passed without incident. I started convincing myself it had been the camera atrophying, digital noise, compression error. Then one Sunday afternoon, I was on a video call with a friend. My laptop was positioned in the kitchen counter, facing me. Behind me, in the background, was the hallway. Mid-conversation, my friend stopped talking. She squinted at her screen. "Is someone there?" I turned around instantly. The hallway was empty. When I turned back, she looked unsettled. "I swear I saw someone walk behind you." I laughed it off, but my hands were shaking slightly. She described it as a dark shape crossing from left to right, not detailed, just a silhouette. That night, I went back through the call recording. There it was, less than half a second, a flicker. A darker form crossing the hallway behind me. It didn't look like glitching pixels, it looked like movement. I slept with the hallway light on that night, and the next. A week later, I did something I probably shouldn't have. I looked up the building's history. It had been renovated about 8 years earlier. Before that, it had been a private assisted living facility for elderly residents. I found one archived local article about a small fire in the building 15 years ago. One resident had died from smoke inhalation. The article didn't include many details, just that the resident had been found in their room, alone. I don't know why that detail stuck with me. Maybe because my apartment layout matched what would have been two smaller rooms combined into one. The hallway mirror was positioned roughly where an old doorway might have been before renovation. After that, the occurrences had become more frequent. I stopped taking photos entirely, but reflections don't require photos. One night, at around 1:30 a.m., I got up to use the bathroom. The apartment was dark except for street lights flickering through the blinds. As I passed the mirror, I saw it, not clearly, but enough, standing in the hallway behind me, taller than me, still. I froze. My reflection was there, and behind it, slightly offset, was something that didn't belong. When I spun around, the hallway was empty. When I looked back at the mirror, it was gone. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next day, I covered the mirror with a sheet. That lasted 3 days. Then I uncovered it, because part of me needed to know if it was still happening. That was a mistake. The final incident happened on a Sunday evening. I was cleaning, music playing softly, trying to feel normal. I walked past the hallway and caught movement in my peripheral vision. I stopped, turned slowly towards the mirror. This time, the figure was closer than ever, not in the hallway, not near the doorway, but directly behind me. Close enough that it looked like it was standing over my shoulder. It didn't have features, but it had presence, height, weight. And the worst part, it didn't disappear immediately. It stayed, for maybe 2 full seconds, long enough for me to register that it wasn't matching my movement. I stepped forward. It didn't. I turned. The hallway was empty. When I looked back, the mirror reflected only me. I moved out within a month. I didn't tell the landlord why. I just said I needed a change. I never experienced anything like that again. No shapes in mirrors, no flickers in photos, no silhouettes in video calls. But sometimes when I scroll through my old camera roll, I find the first photo, the one my sister circled. I kept it, because I needed proof it happened. The shape is subtle. If you didn't know to look, you might miss it. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I still don't know what unsettles me more. The idea that something was there, or the possibility that it only appeared when I wasn't meant to notice. I bought the farmhouse knowing it needed work. It sat about 20 minutes outside of town, down a narrow gravel road with no streetlights and only 2 other properties within half a kilometre. The place had been vacant for almost 3 years before I purchased it. It wasn't abandoned looking, just tired, peeling paint, warped floorboards, old wiring that hummed faintly when too many lights were on at once. I wanted quiet. I wanted space. The knocking started 3 weeks after I moved in. The first time I heard it, I assumed it was the pipes. It was just after midnight. I was sitting at the kitchen table going through renovation plans when I heard it from the hallway. 3 knocks, evenly spaced. Knock, pause, knock, another pause, knock. It wasn't loud, it wasn't aggressive, just deliberate. I froze, listening. The house settled a lot at night. Wood spans, contracts. I'd heard pops and creaks before. But this wasn't random shifting. It had rhythm. I stood and walked towards the hallway. Silence. The hallway was narrow, with bedrooms on either side and a small linen closet at the end. The sound had come from the right wall, the one that backed onto the empty guest bedroom. I stepped into the guest room. Nothing unusual. No windows open, no obvious draft. I knocked lightly on the wall myself. It sounded hollow, old drywall over studs. I shrugged it off and went to bed. The second time it happened, I was already asleep. I woke up to the sound, 3 knocks, clearer this time, coming from the same section of wall. I checked my phone, 2:17 a.m. I lay still, staring into the darkness. Nothing followed. After a few minutes, I got up and walked the hallway again. Silence. No movement outside, no cars, no wind. I told myself it was the temperature change in the wall cavity. Old homes do that. Still, the timing bothered me. It happened again 2 nights later. 2:14 a.m. 3 knocks. Some spacing. I didn't move this time. Instead, I waited. After about 30 seconds, I did something impulsive. I knocked back. Once. Just a single knock on the same wall. I don't know why I did that. Maybe curiosity, maybe frustration. The house went silent for 5 seconds, then knock, pause, knock, pause, knock. 3, evenly spaced, exactly like before. My chest tightened. I told myself it was coincidence. Structural echo, the wall settling in response to vibration. That explanation felt thin. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Over the next week, the pattern continued. Not every night, but always between 2 and 2:30 a.m. Always 3 knocks. Always from the same section of hallway wall. It never moved location, never changed rhythm. I started inspecting the house during the day. There was no plumbing lines running through that wall. I checked the original blueprints the previous owner had left behind. No water pipes, no heating ducts, no electrical conduit. Just empty cavity space between the studs. I even cut a small inspection hole near the baseboard. Shone a flashlight inside, insulation, dust, nothing else. I patched the hole and tried to move on. The escalation happened on a Sunday night. I had invited my brother over for dinner. He knew about the knocking. I had told him half-jokingly. He teased me about the rural paranoia. Around 9:30 p.m., while we were sitting in the living room, it happened. 3 knocks. From the hallway. Not 2 a.m., not subtle, clear. My brother stopped mid-sentence. We both looked at each other. "You heard that?" I asked. "Yeah." He stood up immediately and walked towards the hallway. We both listened. Silence. He knocked on the wall once. Nothing. Then twice. Nothing. He knocked 3 times. The wall answered. 3 knocks. From inside. His face changed. He stepped back slowly. "That's not pipes," he said quietly. We checked the entire house. Attic access. Crawl space beneath the floor. Exterior sliding. No one there. No animals. No obvious explanation. After he left that night, the house felt different. He had confirmed it. It wasn't just in my head. The knocking became interactive. If I ignored it, it stayed at 3 knocks. If I knocked once, it responded with 3. If I knocked twice, it still responded with 3. It never changed its pattern. That consistency disturbed me more than randomness would have. One night I recorded it on my phone. The audio captured the knocks clearly, even spacing, hollow but not echoing. It sounded like knuckles on drywall. I sent the recording to a contractor friend. He came out the next day. We opened a larger section of the hallway wall, removed drywall beneath 2 studs. There was nothing inside. No pipes, no animals, no loose boards, just insulation and empty cavity extending up towards the attic. We left the wall open overnight to observe. At 2:11 a.m. I stood there staring into the exposed cavity, waiting. 3 knocks, from higher up, inside the wall above where we had opened it. Not behind insulation, not behind drywall, but from within the vertical space. I felt something shift in my stomach. I grabbed a ladder and climbed into the attic. The attic was unfinished. Wood beams, insulation laid between joists, nothing else. I stood still, listening. The knocking didn't repeat. But then I noticed something. In the insulation directly above the hallway wall, there were compressed indentations, not footprints exactly, but pressure marks, as if weight had been distributed there repeatedly. The attic only had one access point, inside my bedroom closet, and I hadn't been up there since moving in. I left the attic immediately. The next night, the knocking didn't happen, nor the night after. For 4 days, silence. I started convincing myself that opening the wall had changed airflow or structural tension, and then on the 5th night at exactly 2:16 a.m., 3 knocks. But this time, from the bedroom wall, not the hallway, directly behind my bed. I sat upright, heart pounding. It had moved, slowly. I knocked once against the wall behind me. Silence. Then 3 knocks, right beside my head, closer than ever. I left the house that night. I drove into town and stayed at a motel. The next morning, I called a structural engineer. He inspected everything: foundation, stud alignment, thermal expansion patterns. He couldn't find a mechanical cause. He suggested it could be wildlife inside the outer siding, but there were no droppings, no entry points, no scratching, no scurrying, just knocking, evenly spaced, always 3. The final incident happened a week later. I had decided I was selling the house. I was packing boxes in the living room. The sun had just set, and for the first time, it happened during daylight. 3 knocks from the hallway. I didn't freeze this time. I walked slowly toward it. I stood in front of the wall and said out loud, "What do you want?" Silence. I felt ridiculous immediately. Then, 3 knocks, directly in front of my face, from inside the wall, close enough that the drywall vibrated slightly under my hand. I didn't respond. I didn't knock back. I didn't say anything else. I finished packing that night. I sold the farmhouse 6 months later. I didn't disclose the knocking because there was nothing concrete to disclose. No damage, no proof beyond recordings. The new owners renovated heavily, tore down interior walls, replaced insulation. As far as I know, they've never reported anything unusual. But I still have the audio recordings, and sometimes late at night, if I listen closely, I notice something I didn't notice before. In the pauses between each knock, there's a faint sound, almost like breath.